3 times Omkara. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunattu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. दिवि भूमौ तथा काशे बहिरन्तश्च मे विभुः यो विभात्यवभासात्मा तस्मै सर्वात्मने नमः. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. On this beautiful occasion of Vijayadashmi, Dashara, we are learning the story of Prahlada, one of the great saints. He was a Danava, that means to say a demon born to Hiranyakashipa, but then he rose to that extent that his devotion to Narayana at a very early age, at early childhood days, that he challenged his own father, and then he has not only that he achieved whatever that he was looking for the Narayana, but also he could see that his father is freed from the clutches of bondage that was there, a freedom that he could give. So this is a story of Prahlada that we have seen, and we have also seen that at the end of the whole sadhana and all that, when Narasimha came, Vishnu came in the form of Narasimha, and then there was so much of hahakara, and after that, then he has withdrawn his avatara, and then Prahlada was there, and he was alone. At that time, Vishnu says that I can come and see that I will help you wherever that you want, whenever you want. And that is prompted by Vishnu. Later on, he went into meditation. He was, and at the same time that there was so much of the whole sattvic nature of him, the whole pious nature of him was something which has come up. So therefore, we come to the point where the ninth sutra that is there in page 132 of this Yoga Vasistha, essence of Yoga Vasistha, where he says that Prahladam prati girvanaha tata snigdhatvam ayayuhu. That means to say the snehatva, snigdhatva is snehatva. It is supposed to be close bondage. It's a connection established by the Girvanam. That means to say all the gods and goddesses also established connection with Prahlada. That means to say this boy, they have adapted, they have taken him with them. So though he was supposed to be a demon boy, but then because that he has reached to that level where his love for God is the one which enabled him, so therefore even the gods have adapted him, that is out of love, out of connection with them inseparably. And this is what is Prahladam prati girvanaha tataha snigdhatvam ayayuhu. Then the demigods or the gods attain to friendliness towards Prahlada. Manasa karmana vacha prahlado bhaktimanapi tyakta bhogadikalanah vishrantim anupagata. Manasa vacha karmana, by mind, word and deed. That means to say from the subtlest level of the mind to the subtle level called as the walk, And then at the gross level, that's what is the karma. In all these areas, through all these things, that manasa vacha karmana prahlado bhakti manapi. He practiced bhakti. He was immersed himself into this bhakti. These three are very important. Actually, manasa vacha karmana. Apart from these three things, then there is one more thing is the sankalpa vedanas. All these four, when they are aligned, then the Brahman and the activity, they become one together. That means to say, whatever that is there is Brahman and it purely manifests in the world outside. There is no slippage, manasa, vacha, karmana, and sankalpa eva. These are the four pillars on which our dharma rests. Dharma is supported by these four pillars. Sankalpa has already been there in the case of Prahlada. Manasa, Vacha, Karmana, all these three things, that because of his devotion, dedication for Vishnu, that he could put them together, Bhaktimanapi. But then, Tyakta Bhoga Vilasanaha, he has given up the Bhoga Vilasanaha, that means to say all the enjoyments, all the material involvement, all those things, Tyakta, giving up, then Vishrantim, Anupagataha. All these things he has done, but then unfortunately what happened is that in spite of all those things, he did not get the Vishranti, he did not get the peace of mind. He did not get into that stage where he is free from the vasanas, he is free from the mental disturbances, agitations. And that is where basically he stands now. Tam stitim tu harihi, jnatva tasya puja gruhayayai, विज्ञाय पूजता पूजया देवं संपूज्यं द्विगुणेद्वया प्रह्लादः परमप्नोति परमप्रीतो गिरा तुष्टाव पुष्टया. Now he went into his seclusion in the puja gruha, in his seclusion, in total alone for himself. Harihi, the Lord Vishnu, having indeed known that state of the condition, went to his house of worship. Hari went to his house of worship, having known the God, Hari. Hari Pratyaksha, Hari has appeared in front of him because that of his tapas that was there is manasa vacha karmana. He remembered Hari. Therefore, Hari has appeared in front of him. By his worship and having adored him with two-folded refulgence, and that is order, Prahlada, extremely delighted, praised him by rich words of adoration. He made the stuti of Prahlada, made the stuti of Hari, as Hari appeared in front of him in his puja where he was doing the meditation, and Manasa Vacha Karmana, he appeared him. And then Bhagwan, the Krishna, Hari, said that Varam Gruhanate Bhuyo Janmadukkhopashantaye. Now, after having done all this, Manasa Vacha Karmana, totally dedicated towards the Hari, then he says that I'll give you this boon, take this boon from me, that you are te bhuyo janma dukkhopashantaye bruhana. That means to say, you please accept these things and this boon that I am giving you. And what is that? Bhuyo janma dukkhopashantaye. That means to say, all the numerous births and then their agony, misery of all these births and all that, then you will, all that dissolves, cessation of all those things will happen to you. And now, after having heard from Hari, Prahlada Uvacha, Yad Udaratamam Vetsi, Tadevadisha me Prabho, Vibho. O Lord, point out to me only that which you consider is the most exalted. Now, don't give me various directions or anything like that. Now, all right, you have taken away that numerous births and then their misery that is associated with that. But now, tell me something. Give me something that only which is considered as the most exalted of all these things. What is that the highest thing that we need to achieve? And that's what Sri Bhagavan Vacha. Sarva Sambhrama Sanshantyahi Paramaya Phalayacha Brahma Vishranti Paryanto Vicharestu Tavanakha. Now, this is where Lord once again tells him that, "O sinless one, you have already purified yourself, and for the complete alleviation of all confusion and the error, and for the highest good, let there be reflection inquiry in you, extending up to tranquility in Brahman or in the Supreme Spirit." Now, this is something which is very important. We need to declare that. This also there in Bhagavad Gita, a similar kind of shloka. He says that, all right, with the help of prayatna, with the help of our own effort and all that, we have completely eliminated all the vasanas, all the samskaras, purified ourselves. Chitta completely Vishranti has taken place. All that happened. Sadhana has been very clear, sadhana has been very deep, and then there is nothing that is left in the mind, nothing that can attract us in the mind. The objective world has no play in our mind. All that happened, everything has happened, so that I don't have any kind of distractions in my mind. Everything has happened, but still that I'm not happy. I'm not satisfied. There is something which is really bothering in my mind. And that highest goal, with all these things that when we did it, it did not happen. For what reason that did not happen? In Bhagavad Gita, he puts a different kind of question, that somebody may be not be really doing all this kind of controlling of the senses and sadhana, this disciplines and all that, and he puts it in this way, that jitendriyaha, and he does not go for conquering his indriyas, and somebody is there like that, with all those things that is there, does he not get the highest moksha? And that's what Arjuna asked Krishna. Krishna immediately is saying that there are few people here and there are rarely somebody, but then yes, somebody can go through that, somebody can get that. That means to say, there is something which is beyond just practices that you do, just purifying that you do. Beyond that, there is something what is called as grace. Soren Kierkegaard has written a book called as the Grace and Gravity. Gravity is that what follows by the law and order, and then grace is something which is beyond that. This is a very beautiful idea. That means to say, gravity is something which follows the law, which follows the object, and then every object has to follow, everything has to follow that particular law. So there is a law bound. That means to say, there is some cause and there is an effect. There is some practice and then there is a benefit that is there. So this is what is the cause and effect. That means to say, I've done so much, therefore I must get into that. Now it is highest goal is also that you get it, but even the intermediate goals also that we set up, and then we claim that mechanically that we have done that, therefore we must get it. It's only mechanical. Like for example, a computer that you put something and then it gives out. Basically the output comes into that. So therefore that I put in so much of input in the form of meditation, in the form of dhyana, in the form of shavasana, but all those things. But I must get the output out of it. That means to say, the benefit that I should find out. Now what happens with this is that the practices that we do and the output, these two things seem to be like mechanically connected. And the whole creation, it is mechanically connected that way. Yes, that's what we see around. We see around most of the time, this is what is happening. Sun rises in the east, sun sets in the west. No matter what happens, this is something which clockwork, it just follows. Similarly, you put the seeds and the crop comes up. Whatever the seed that you put, the same thing crops will come up. So therefore, we claim that yes, rains were there, crop is there, everything is there. So it should, proper manure is there, everything, therefore crop has to come. So we claim slowly what happens is that everything looks to be very mechanical, everything looks to be very law rigid oriented, that kind of a rigid law oriented kind of a thing. But then ultimately what happens is that there is one more thing that is there. It is the grace of God. So apart from whatever that is there, Manishatvam, Mumukshaktam, all these things are there, but important of all those things is the grace of God. This grace element has to be there. Grace element always is there. So therefore, we always look for that grace, that God element, and then from Him the grace. Idea is that you just surrender to the God and then allow the God to solve whatever that is unknown area behind it. Because after all, that every activity that we do, there is known aspect of it, but there is also an unknown aspect of it. That unknown aspect is covered by this particular aspect of surrender to the God or divine grace. And this is what is the thing that here also Prahlada's case, he shows that he has done all kinds of practices. He has and that is what manasa, vacha, karmanaha. He did everything. And then after having done all those things, that means to say, I do something, therefore I must get something. Then you claim. No, you can't claim here. Spiritual direction, spirituality is something where it is not just like the law bound, where that you do one thing, three, four, and then you claim that you must get that. That's not happening. So therefore, he did all kinds of things, but at least mind has become quiet. Vasanas are not there. There are no samskaras which are hanging around. Everything, whatever that is supposed to happen, happened. But in spite of it, the joy, the bliss, the, the gratitude, that is not there. And that is something which God has to give. Therefore, he approaches Hari. He calls Hari. And then now, Hari's grace has been there. See, Bhagavan's grace is there. And therefore, he says that, come on, take it. Varam gruhan. That means to say, I'm now bestowing. That means I'm giving you the vara. That means to say boon. And this grace that I'm giving, what is that? And take it that for bhuyo janma dukho upashantaye. Finally, for the janma dukha upashantaye, and that you need to have this kind of an aspect of that surrender to the divine, and the divine grace has to happen. This is what Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, he said that, and Prahlada Uvacha, Yad Udaratamam Veti Tade Vadeshave Vibhoho, and only that, what really gives me that, see, Bhagavan says, Sarva Sambhrama Shamshantyo Paramaya Phalaya Cha Bahya Vishranti Paryanto Vichare Stutavanaka. Now, having equipped with this divine grace, now let your mind be only on the idea of Sarva Sambhrama Samshantyo. That means Samshantyahi, then all the excitement, then put it aside, and Paramaya Phalaya Cha. Ultimate goal, the final state of the sadhana, and that's what is the Nirvikalpa sthiti, and that's what he says, Brahma Vishranti Paryanto, and it is the tranquility, Vishranti, the tranquility of the Brahmika nature, and that is what you do, and Vicharostu Tavanakha. Anagha, that means to say somebody who does not have any sins, he is free from all the sins. The freedom from the sin is over, and all that you got it. Sins are not there, and no iota of that, no tendencies of that. But then, in spite of it, then Atmabodha has to happen. That means one more step ahead that you need to do. And that can only happen by the God's grace. Atma Vicharanam Ityuktva Antarhite Devo Deve Samapyacham Yathakramam Upavishya Daityendro Akaro Atma Vicharanam. So, having said that, when the Lord disappeared, the Lord has gone. And then the Prahlada, in completing his worship in due order, and having sat down, carried out the contemplation on this nature of the self. Now he has completely whole mind, whole approach has been only on the self, and that journey he started. Jagat tavatidam naham bahya tat jadame vahi Naham deho jade nashya pashyenaiva vispuram. In order to do the sadhana, that we need to have this body. In order to do the sadhana, we need to have the senses, we need to have all the memory, everything that is there in this body. This whole package is there, and that we really require. And with that package only that we need to do the sadhana. Without this body, the sadhana is not possible. That is why the Shastras say that human nature, human life is the one where that you can do the sadhana. You can get into the moksha. No other species, no other form can reach that particular state because the sadhana aspect is there with this body mind consciousness complex. We have this. And now here this also that this portion that is there, Jagat Tavatidam, as for this world that is there, Jagat Nahamiti Pahyam. That means to say, Jagat Tavat Idam Naham. I am not this Jagat that is there, the objective world outside. I am nothing connected with that. Bahyam Tat Jadame Vahi, and then Naham Deho Jadeo Nashya. That means to say all that indeed which is the quite senseless, and I am not the body which is itself is senseless, and then destructible, moving about only by the breath, the vital body, vital energy. This body that we have, which has got all these senses and all this mechanism that is involved in that, and this also houses the memory, this also houses various things that are there. All these things put together is something which is one package, one unit that is there. And I am using this particular unit. And it is me who is behind all these things using it. I am not this body. In fact, the moment that I am not there and this alone is there, it is senseless. That means to say, all the senses, without my being there, the senses are not useful at all. Senses are no more senses. Like the way that when you go to sleep, in the sleep state, where is the question of eyes? Where is the question of body? Any part of it? Anything like that? Doesn't exist at all. You don't have anything to claim during the deep sleep state that I have this body, I have this, I have that. All these things you cannot claim. You only later on when you wake up, you said, yes, it was my body is there, my all these mechanism is there, and still work is going on. All those things that you only assume when you wake up. But in that time when you are in the deep sleep state, that all these things are not there. There is nothing that is really wonderful. It's all becomes like jada. Jada means when the consciousness is not there, what remains is like the material without any life in that. In fact, a beautiful example that is when you take the anesthesia. The moment that you take local anesthesia, what will happen to you? That means to say, the doctor who gives anesthesia, then he will do all kinds of surgery on you. He cut the pieces, he takes away the pieces, he does all kinds of things. You are not aware of anything that is what's going on. So basically that you are not there, nothing is available for you. After you come back from anesthesia, he will show you that, look, these are all the things which I removed. There is so much of a growth, there is so much of intestine, there is so much of this and that. I removed all those things. And then he shows that. When you see that also, that you can't recognize that it is part of your body. Only thing is you wonder that all these things were there in that. And then he removed that. And still I'm okay without all those things. See, all these things are the sense of wonder that we have. But other than that, we don't have any feeling about that. Where the consciousness is there, that is only that we recollect, remember, but then conscious is not there. We are not there with that, then we don't know anything. And that body where we are not there, it is supposed to be jada. It's as dead as a log of wood, as dead as the earth, as dead as the anything that's there outside. Jadaya. And once you remove this awareness, take away this I behind it, then everything is nothing but this jada. And that's what we see, that when somebody leaves this body, Until that time that he was in this body, that he was struggling in this body, struggling to take breath, struggling to fight, struggling to do all kinds of things. That is what is going on. But when the struggle reaches extreme, that means to say he cannot support anymore. At that point of time, he just gives up all his fight. And when death occurs, such a person, you can see that how relieved from the pain. He doesn't have any pain anymore. He left it. But here also, there is something which is very subtle that we need to understand, is that uh, in a state of coma, actually in a state of coma also, that there is, what happens is that many times that we have left the body connection. No, we have not left the body connection. We are still in this body. We are holding on to something. We are still holding on to the body. That's the reason why anesthesia effect is gone, that we come back. We come back to the same body because that we have connections established in this body. Even though that we are given general anesthesia and then it looks like that we don't have any connection with that. The same way that even in the deep sleep also that we have connection with this body. And therefore that once you come out of the sleep, you come back into this body. You are not lost. You are not anywhere else. And that connection is there. That association is still be there. This is one aspect of it. There are two things that are there. One thing is that I experience something that is there and I respond to that. This is another thing that we have. These are the two kinds that we involve in this body. And that a stimulus is there that I experience and then I give the response to that. Somebody says something, I shout at him, my response is there, my reaction is there. So both these things are there. But then many times what happens is the relationship between these two is that the percentage that whatever that is of awareness that is required for perceiving, compared to that, responding requires at least 100 times more energy or even more. That's the reason why many times we perceive, but we may not be able to express it. So many people, when they are in the case of coma, that means to say in the supposed to be unconscious state, don't think that they are not perceiving, that they are still perceiving, because that aspect is still active. Only thing is they are not able to respond. That's the reason why when people are in the coma state or the last state, in the state of where delirium or external world connection is not there, and in front of them, amongst them, that people will be talking, saying that, oh, this man was like this is like this, how long he will live, all that they will be discussing in front of that person so-called supposed to be in unconscious state. I always tell that please don't talk in front of him. Go away from here and talk. If you are here, always talk to him something which is positive, nice to him, because what happens is that he still perceives. Only thing is he may not be able to respond. And this particular aspect is given by one of the cancer patients when she was almost like near-death experiences, she was recollecting that the doctors who were there with her were saying that, oh, she cannot survive, she's not living, she is dead, all that kind of thing they were talking. Later on in her book, she recollects that when they were talking like that, they only saw my body outside, but I am there inside, and then I'm still there. I wanted to shout that I am there, but then there is no way I can shout because that I'm myself, I'm not powering the senses that is there. This is what is the state of unconsciousness. Later on, they almost discarded her, and then they thought that she will be fit to go to the mortuary. But then she fortunately came up, and then she recovered. Everything is cancer has receded, and then she wrote a book recollecting all kinds of things. And this is what our Indian philosophy always said that a man still perceives. And in fact, we say even beyond that also, even somebody supposed to have been dead, the body that you cremated, in spite of it, that person will still be there responding to the idea because that memory of that house, memory of the people, that keeps that person clinging to the same thing that is there. So therefore, if you are clinging to the body, that is the reason body is live. Body itself is not alive, but body is given this life by us. But the moment that we are withdrawn, we are not there, then this body is completely dead. And all those parts are not really existing. It is therefore jada. Jada means basically there is no chetana in that. It is really mechanical. It is just like a material that is there. And I am not the inanimate sound which is brought about by the senseless auditory passage, decaying in a moment of the form of void and originating in void. Jadaya karnashulyaha kalpamana kshanakshayi shunya kriti shunya bhava shabdo naham achetanaha. So all these things, the ear itself is supposed to be achetana. That means to say there is no chetana is not there in the ear. And then ear responds to the sound that is there, and then the sound is felt by the ear. So all these things are happening that is there, and when you look at it, that is, the sound itself is inanimate, and then the sensory organ is inanimate, and then brought by the senseless auditory, that is the auditory passage which also inanimate, and all that is going on, decaying, and this is there at this moment, and the next moment it can decay. Once it is there, and next it will die. This is what is the way that it is for the form of void and originating into the void. It's all going into the void and then originating from the void. But you are not connected with that. I'm not that. I'm not this particular thing. In fact, this is what I keep telling when I'm giving the instructions about meditation. I say that you keep your eyes open and then gently open your eyes and look at the object in front of you, maybe a candle frame or an object that you keep, and then fix your eyes on that object. Once you fix your eyes on the object, then I say that you are looking at that object. Normal course of time that we are looking at the object for hours and then we don't feel tired. But whereas when you are sitting for meditation for 2 minutes that you are looking at the fixing your eyes on the object, you start rubbing your eyes. You start feeling the pain, strain. Why do you feel the strain? In fact, if you analyze that, what happens is that your eyes are like windows, they're open. And the light is coming from the object outside. And then the windows are open, therefore it falls into the eyes. And then there is a screen that is there inside in the form of retina and passes through a lens in between. Okay, and then falls on the screen. From the screen, the whole signals are converted into electrical signals and goes all the way into the occipital cortex, and the seeing is happening. So when you look at this, the whole process, eyes, process of seeing and the object, all these things are nothing but just mechanical, Chaitanya free. They don't have any Chaitanya or anything like that. It is just an activity that is going on. But then why are you feeling strained? The question is, why do you feel strained? We feel strained because that we put behind this the idea that I am seeing. I put behind this idea behind the eyes that I am seeing, and behind the whole process that's going on at the brain level that I am seeing. So this I bring about that. And this is what is basically dhyana, which means withdraw the I, withdraw this effort, withdraw the doer behind it. This is what he says, jadaya karnaya shukya and kalpyamanaha ksanakshayi, and it's just this moment is there, next moment it will die, and shunya kritihi, shunya bhavaha, and form of void, and it goes back into the shunya, whatever that is creation in the form, and it goes back into the shunya, and then comes back from the shunya. And this is shunya bhavaha, it is nothing but void, and then shunya kritihi, it is the nothingness has become that kind of a shape, and shabdo na, I am not that shabda, achetanaha. That means to say, I'm not that Chetana Shabda, all these things are Chetana Rahitya, Chetana Vihita, Chetana not being there. Tvacha Kshana Vinashinya Prayo Prapyo Yamanyatha Chit Prasadopalabdhyatma Sparshonaham Achetanaha. The same thing like the way that karna, that hearing and the sound that is there, it's all nothing but void. In the void that there are these things created, and then there is another place. Out of this void only this is created, and that's what is the ear perception is going on. Same way, tvacha, that means to say my skin, and touching sensation by the skin, and the touch which is also not consciousness. The skin is touching an object, or the skin itself is achetana, that means chetana nahita, and the object outside achetana. These two things, interaction between them, is what is the process of touching, the process of all that happening. Kshana vinashinya, tvacha kshana vinashinya, and this particular touch is something which is for a kshana that is there. It's just this moment is there, next moment it is not there. Yes, you touch and take it up to your finger, and you see that next moment it is not there. Once you have touched it, the feeling it is there, the touching, the moment you take it out, it is gone. That means to say basically that everything has really flown into the shunya. This flow is what is. The way that it happens, this is what I said in the case of, Heraclitus said that you cannot keep the same foot, you cannot keep the foot twice in the same river. I can take out my foot from the river and can put it back. You said no. Because by the time you put back, already so much of water has flown. So it is not anymore that same foot, but it is same river. It's already a different river because fresh water is there. This is what Heraclitus said, that the river is flowing. But Indian philosophy goes one step ahead, saying that even your body is also continuously in a flux. It's flowing. Its cells are dying, new cells are being born, and that whole thing is completely replenished. And this is what is going on. Because of that moment only, all that which is there in this body is just washed away. It doesn't exist anymore. So therefore, basically, it's all flowing. It is, and what flows into shunya, it comes from the shunya, goes back into the shunya, like the way that we talked about the uh, ears, the same thing about the skin. It's also like that. Similarly, drishya darshana yoho linam kshayi kshana vinashino. In fact, this is much more stronger about the drishya and the darshana. Both these things you are seeing and the object is all just a momentary, so momentary that linam kshayi kshana vinashina. No, that means say I am not the form which is the form which is not the consciousness and which is resting on the scene and the seeing, seen and seeing, all that it is resting on that, and that are decaying and perishable in the moment, and which is lost in the mere isolated seer. So therefore, I am the seer and I am behind it, and I am the Chetana, and then Chetana, when it comes to the form of a seer, and the object is seen, and the whole process goes on. But the moment that Chetana is separated from that, this is nothing but Jada, and this does not exist anymore. It simply flows. And Darshana, Drishya, all these things are flowing. And where it flows, every moment it is flowing from, coming from the unmanifest and coming to the manifest and going back to the unmanifest. In fact, that's how our body cells are dying so fast every time then we are taking bath, actually, that it is not the dirt that's coming out, but we are the dead skin that is there on the top of the body, and that we are washing it off, and then fresh skin is there, something still alive. But then that also goes into the death again. So this is a constant flow that's going on in this one. I am a Chetana. I am the Chetana behind it, and all these things are a Chetana. Recognize that. Don't be identified with this. What is that? What you are not. Drishya darshana yoho linam क्षयी क्षण विनाशिनोः केवले दृष्टरि क्षीणं रूपम नाहम अचेतनम. Naham rupam achetanam, which is without any chetana. I am that chetana. Labdhvatma jihvaya tushto lolakshanika sattayaha salpaspando dravjanishto rasonaham achetanaha. Now, jihvaya. Now, this is about the tongue. I am not the taste which is not conscious. Taste itself, there is no consciousness in it, which has obtained its character through the tongue. It's only obtained because of the tongue has that capacity to taste about these things, which is trifling, insignificant, which is nothing, which stays, does not stay, due to its changing and momentary existence. Even that's also momentary existence, which is of a very little moment and which depends on substance. Now, this is all about the substance, this is all about the taste and about the senses that are there. In fact, object and the senses are created simultaneously, therefore that the senses and the object they belong to. Like the mind that is there behind all those things, when they wanted to see, and then it became the eyes, wanted to touch, became the touching sensation. But along with that, the object is created, so that object you can touch, object you can see. So these are the things. That means to say object and the perception, that they are put together, but both these things are supposed to be there's no chetana in that. There are jada, and these are the things which are jada swarupa. I am not the smell, same thing. Nasayapya andha napyayasya andhajadasya jadaya kshaniya parikalpitaha pelapo niyatakaro gantho naham achetanaha. Even the gandha is also nothing but neutral. It's a chetana. It's a jada. And then because the smell is jada, the nasal perception that is there involved is also jada. So perceiving and then jada, and both these things are interacting. You are behind all those things. You are free from all those things. And only thing is that we are so identified with that, we cannot feel ourselves that freedom that we exist without all these things. That nirmamo manasaha shanto gata पश्येन्द्रिय भ्रमः शुद्ध चेतन एवाहं कला कलनदर्जितः वर्जितः चेत्य वर्जित चिन्मात्रम् अहमेशाव भासकः मेषो अवभासकः सबाह्याभ्यंतर व्यापी निष्कलामल संयम सन्मयः आ इदानीं स्मृतं नित्यं एतत्तत् अखिलं मया. I am free from the sense of mind, free from connection with the outer world, free from thinking, and calm with the whirling and confusion of the five senses gone. I am only pure consciousness without parts and reckoning. I am this luminous perception, which is just pure consciousness without objects to be recognized. I pervade inside and outside, full of being existence, pure, undivided. Oh, this very truth has been remembered by me now in full. This is what is the realization that he gets. He frees himself from the perception, the process of perceiving, and the object of perception, and also the sensory organ which perceives. That means to say this body and its connections and all those things. And he is somebody who is a witness behind all those things. He doesn't involve in that. Now, all these problems, all these worries, and a manas is created by these impressions that are there. Behind all these senses, whatever that is, the mind is there. Mind picks up all the impressions and mind carries with that. And that's how basically that we are into agitation, disturbance. Mind does not become quiet because that all these impressions are there. All these idea that is there about the mind. And now once all these things are set aside, then you feel that you are the Shuddha Chetana. Now what is the Shuddha Chetana, Ashuddha Chetana? There is nothing like Ashuddha Chetana, there is nothing like Shuddha Chetana that way. But what happens is basically like the way that is Chetana is always Shuddha. Chetana cannot be Ashuddha at all. Chetana is always Shuddha. But here he emphasizes on Shuddha Chetana. It is like the way that the moon is there on the sky, full moon is there, beautiful full moon on a very dark night, midnight. And then that moonlight is it falls on everything that is there and gets reflected. Wherever the water is there, it gets reflected. It may be a nice, wonderful pond of water where the lotuses are there, everything is there, it gets reflected. Similarly, it also falls into, it is reflected by a dirty pond where it's only the slush, dirt that is there, but then it reflects on that. Similarly, there is a surface which is very polished and shining and all that, but something which is bad, but on that also it shines. Just because that the moon is reflected by the dirty pond, or moon is reflected something else, it does not change the moon. It does not change the reflection, because reflection is always pure, moon is always pure. So therefore, basically that Chetana which comes up is always pure. Only thing is that why it is called as Shuddha Chetana. Chetana forgets itself, it is to be clear, but then it identifies on the object that it is reflected. Like the way right from the sun all the way up to the earth, when the sun ray is coming, in between they are not obstructed and you don't see the sun ray at all. In between that there is something like sun ray and you don't see that. Unless until you put an object in between and then it is reflected on that particular object, then you see that object. Then you know that there is sun ray which is coming onto the earth. And once it comes onto the earth, various objects are there on which it reflects. And then you see those objects. It may be good object, it may be bad object, something it may be very nice looking object, sometimes it is dirty looking object. All that what happens is that the sunlight is being reflected on those things. The sunlight itself is pure. Only thing is that the object reflecting has all kinds of things that are there. And then we think that that is there in the light itself. No, it is not like that. The same way, Chetana does not get corrupted by the world outside, but we have given the name that this is good, this is bad, this is okay, this is not okay, this is right, this is not right. So this way we have given the labels for that once we remove all those labels, that Shuddha Chetana Eva Aham Kala Kalana Varjitaha. That means to say, I am the pure conscious, I am only pure consciousness without parts and reckoning. That means to say, Kala Kalana Varjitaha. I am whole and all these parts are there. It's only visible for the sake of parts, but otherwise there is nothing like part. Chetya Varjita Chinmatram Ahame Aham Esho Avabhasarkaha. That means to say, Chetya Varjita Chinmatram. Pure consciousness, I am the perception, I am the shining that is there, which is but the pure consciousness without the object being recognized. This is what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita in second chapter. He says that what we know about is only the awareness of the object outside. This object is there, that object is there, object 2, 3, 4, they are there. We are aware of all those things. We have never become awareness ourselves. This journey from being aware of everything to come back to the idea of awareness itself is like the way that all the object that we say we are aware of, anything that is there in the world outside is nothing but jada. It is not Chetana also. And jada and being aware of the jada also is nothing but jada itself. But when you remove all that from you, you become the pure Chetana. So Chetya Varjita Chinmatram Ahamesho Avabhasakaha Sabahyabhyantara Vyapi Nishkalamala Sanmayaha. So I pervade inside and out, full of being, existence, and the existence inside and out. It is because of this Chetana, all these things are seen. The Pramanikatva for the object gets because of the Chetana that is there. Otherwise, that they are nothing but Jada, neutral, Sabhahyabhyantara Vyapi. I am everywhere in that. So, Nishkalamala Sanmayaha. Ah, now he realizes that he is the one who is there inside and outside. It is nothing but that Chetana. Inside and outside mean basically whatever the activities that are going on inside, and outside is whatever that you perceive outside. Every object, everything in this world has these two components. One component is what you perceive outside, another component is what is there hidden behind it, what is there hidden inside. And then there's so much of an activity going on. Like, for example, we have so many things that are going on inside us. Absolutely marvelous things are going on inside. Imagination, creation, this, that, and memory and recollecting of the memory. Like that, so many things that are going on inside, and there are so many things that are being done outside. All these things, whether are inside or outside, all of that is nothing but only Jada. Only Jada. Only thing is that it is a Chetana which makes all those things lively. I'm lively thinking, my lively imagining, my lively creation. All those things are because the Chetana behind it is what is making it. Otherwise, the object itself, the perception itself, is something which is Jada. Now, it is not just only in myself that I realize, I see the same thing in the world outside. This is the important aspect. Even Patanjali says in the sutra, whatever that you become in the last, in the Kaivalya Pada, he says that whatever that you identify yourself with, and the same thing that you see in the world also outside. If you are identifying yourself with the Jada, that means to say the body, then you see the whole world is nothing but Jada. You can only see the material and material and material alone. But whereas that you recognize that you are the Chetana inside, the moment that you recognize that you are the intellect or you are the mind, then you think everybody is also the mind, and that mind is very important. But the moment that you are intellect, many times it happens like that. People identify themselves with the intellect. And then they look at the world also, that the world is also nothing but intellect. But then they look at them and say that, why is he not understanding? See, I'm saying something from the intellect and he is not responding. He is also should be able to say that, how stupid he is. So we try to see him as an intellect. Therefore, we label him. But he is what he is. So therefore, whatever that we are, we see the world as the same thing. The same way, if we further continue, that's what Patanjali says, that if you find yourself to be the Chetana, that means to say the consciousness yourself, then that whole world looks as consciousness, and the whole world not only looks as consciousness, but whatever the transaction that's going on in this world, it's also because of that one consciousness, which is all pervading. That's what is working in all of us, everybody that is there. So now, once you recognize that, then you see that you are all pervading. And it is not that you have to change yourself, you are changing or anything like that. You are all pervading, you are everywhere like that. Nirvikalpa chita phasam. That means to say, I'm all pervading. Vikalpa means that a change. There are absolutely no changes happening anywhere in this world. All this variety of people that you see, the moment that I recognize that it's nothing but the same consciousness that is there, then all that variety that you see is just only nominal. Nirvikalpaschidabhasam eva atma asmi sarvagaha. In everything that is there, undifferentiated consciousness. Wow, what a wonderful feeling, what a wonderful experience that one has. Where is that's what Upanishad also says. When you have this kind of thing, tatra komohaha kashokaha ekatvam anupashyataha. Where is the question of shoka? Where is the question of moha? Mine, his, and shoka, and all those things. Ekatvam anupashyataha. I am perceiving only one consciousness that is there. Nirvikalpa chidabhasam eva esha atmani sarvakaha. This is what is the quote that I have given as a title for this particular uh, today's satsang. Mayaiva chetani nime sarve gatapatadaya. The gatapata is colloquially that is used as a indicating everything that is. Pata means basically the cloth, and then ghata means the pot. Pot is rigid, and pata is not rigid, flexible. Anything which is flexible and rigid, everything that is there in this world, mayyeva chetane me. That means it's all nothing but me in the form of chetana. All these things that is there. Suryantaha abhabhasante deepenottamate jasaha. So I am all pervading self, the light of undifferentiated consciousness. It's only on account of me, the conscious being, the light, the excellent luster, and all these things from pot to garment, and like the sun shine forth. So whether it is sun, whether it is small little candle flame, the object that is shining, and the various forms that are there in the object, everything is nothing but this consciousness shining on that. Otherwise, minus this consciousness, it's all jada. It doesn't exist at all. It's a shunya just coming from this shunya to the existence and going back to the shunya. In this process, in between this, it is always shunya, between also shunya, beginning also shunya, end is also shunya, in between is also shunya, but only thing is in between that it is this me which is supposed to be Chaitanya, because I'm experiencing that Chaitanya. Is this Chaitanya reflecting on that? So, like the way the sun shines forth, even the same Chaitanya is the one which is manifesting in the sun and reflecting in the sun, becomes manifest. And this is a symbolic way of referring to all things visible in this universe. It is only on account of this me, the consciousness, these various functions of these senses bring forth here. All the sense functions are also happening because of this consciousness. And just as the series of sparks on the fire issue forth by the inner lights and heat of fire. All these things are like the way that the same inner consciousness that is there, which is me, and that's what, like the sparks, various objects that are there in front, on that it reflects, and then it dialogues and then comes back. Sarvabhavantarasya chetya mukti chadatmane pratyakchetana rupaya mahyameva namo namaha swayameva voditam swastham namami swavasham swayam. This sutra, now look at the way, see, as I said that in the earlier sutra also he said that idanim srutam. In the 23rd sutra he gives this idea, idanim srutam satyam etat akhilam maya. Idanim satyam, this is what is reality. What is that? Etad mat, this is all nothing but me. You know that it is not just only the sentence that he said, and before that, idanim smritam satyam etad akhilam maya. When he said that sentence he starts with This is something which we need to recognize. That idea is that it's not just only a, lot of times what can happen is that we can conclude intellectually saying that everything is nothing but Brahman. Everybody talks about it, everybody says that. So many people talk about that. But it's all intellectual statement. Yes, particularly science says that how can there be anything else other than just only the same substance made out of. So that's what is basically the way that science also talks about it. People also talk like that you look at the mud, the pots are there, don't see the pot, it is the mud that is there, you see the pots. Similarly, ornaments are there, but the gold is something which is there behind the ornament. Ornament is only what you see outside. Gold is there behind it. Everything is gold. But these are all intellectual arguments, intellectual statements. Intellectual statements do not give you that feeling of awe, the feeling of the sense of that wonder. The sense of wonder can only, I mean, how can that sense of wonder be there when I see a small little simple thing, like some insect is there and then a lizard is eating that insect? I can't see that the same insect is also same Brahman and the lizard is also same Brahman. That kind of a feeling that we don't get it. That's not our experience. Similarly, the ornaments. We say that the same thing, gold is there behind it, but we don't have that experience. Objects also like that, we don't have that experience. But here what happened is that it is not just only this intellectual, it's not at all an intellectual statement, but for Prahlada, it is like an experience that suddenly sparked in him. It is just like that way that experience wells out from him in the form of a beautiful spring that comes up. Therefore, he says that, ah, idani, that expression, wow, such a wonderful statement. And this is idanim smritam satyam. This is what is the reality. As if that reality is there always around him. Everything is in front of him. Everything is there. Only thing is, for so many days, so many years, I have not seen that. For so many janmas, I have not seen that. Therefore, he says, wow, it's all here only, and then I'm seeing now. That's how he gives an expression. Many times, you know what happens? That it happened with me also. It might happen with everybody. I was trying to go, leaving house and then going somewhere. Car is ready, everybody is waiting, and then signal is on, and then I'm still searching in the house. In the process that actually while searching in the house, I'm talking to somebody on the phone. Therefore, my mind is engrossed on the phone, talking to somebody and all that. I'm searching for it, and somebody came to me and asked, "What are you searching for?" And then I was searching vehemently, I said, "Don't disturb me now." And then I continued to search. After 5 minutes, he asked me once again, he stopped me. He said, "What are you searching so that I also look for?" I said, "I'm searching for the phone." Then he said, "You are talking on the phone." Oh, I realized that. That means to say, it's like a that means you just suddenly realize that it's there already within you. That's what Yoga Vasistha is. Extraordinary text in the sense that there is nothing like sadhana. There's only thing is that you just realize that, recognize that, feeling that is there. And once he has that feeling, once he has that, what a wonderful truth that I got it. What a wonderful revelation that is there. It is nothing but the same Chetana that is there. I am that Chetana. And when you develop that Chetana, I am that Chetana, Sarva Bhavantarasya Chetyonmukha Chedatmane. Wow. Everything is nothing but Chetyonmukha Vibhasane. Pratyak Chetana Rupaya. Pratyak Chetana Rupaya. Everything is nothing but Chetana Rupa. When he has that, what happens with that is that he develops such a great respect for that Chetana, for him. And therefore he says, Mahyameva Namo Namaha. He offers his prayers to himself. This is something which is very important. In fact, in Prashnopanishad also, we have seen that when Rishi is talking about prana, and while talking about his prana, he is experiencing that experience of prana within himself. And then what all the thing that happened is explaining it to the student, saying that apana is taking care of me like that, vyana is taking care of me like that. All these different pranas are making me to be alive. You know, if the breath is not there, how can I be alive? The breath is really taking care of my life, whether I'm wakeful or asleep. Similarly, my memory is there, which is taking care of me, carrying from life after life. And then my udana, apana is there, which is something carrying my ojas and tejas and all that. It's going on with me. Wow, when he gets all the, and then finally it is samana. It's trying to create constant balance within me to be healthy, to be all right. When this way that he feels about all these pranas, suddenly he develops such a great respect for this prana. The prana is nothing but that is there within him. And therefore he says, at that point of time he says, Pranasyedam vashe sarvam prithive yat pratishtitam Mateva putran rakshasva srischa pragnancha videhine. It is nothing but, it's like a springing up his his extraordinary degree of extraordinary reverence, respect for that prana. It comes out in the form of that sutra. The same way, here also, that extraordinary, wonderful respect for this self, for Chetana. It wells in him, and then, oh, I am that Chetana, therefore I offer my pradakshina to myself. It's such a beautiful concept that is there. Namo Namaha. Swayameva iditam swastam namami. Uh, Swavesham Swayam. I am somebody, this particular Chetana. I have respect for myself. It's an ultimate state of one becoming one with the universe. But at the same time, why he said like that? Because Prahlada, right from the beginning, he went with that idea of respect towards Hari. Bhakti sadhana is the way that he went. And that bhakti wells in the form of Namaha for himself. Once it so happened, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa disciples, those days photography was very rare, but in spite of it, several photographs that were there, they always used to have that black and white photograph with the camera where you cover yourself, and then there is a film that is there, and then you just open the cover and then close it. So that's the kind of thing that cameras used to be there, rare photographs. So that way, somebody at that point of time, um, actually he was a very wealthy person, and he has engaged his own photographer. And then he caught the picture of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, which is very popular picture where he sat for meditation. That is in that half eyes closed and then kind of a mood that was there. And that Ramakrishna did not know that somebody got the picture of that, got the photograph of that. And then afterwards they developed that photograph and made a nice, wonderful picture with a frame and all that, and brought it to Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. And then showed to Ramakrishna Paramahamsa as a, gift, as a nice, wonderful gift. Proud gift. Ramakrishna looked at it. Immediately he was full of bliss. He said, wow, what a wonderful picture. And then people thought that Ramakrishna looked at himself, and then he was wondering at that picture of himself, his picture, his photograph. But on the other hand, Ramakrishna's first expression was like that. Ah, what a wonderful picture, and all that. And after that, he just bowed down to that picture again and again, repeatedly, and touched the picture, and then touched to his eyes, like the way that he's offering his respect for that. And that looked very strange. That looked very strange. And then they asked, Thakur, what you are doing? Actually, it is your picture, and then you're offering your salutations, you are offering your respect to this your own picture. That means you are offering respect to yourself. Ramakrishna, who said this is my picture? It's not my picture. It is a picture of that Nirvikalpa Samadhi Sthiti. So for that Sthiti, I'm offering my prayer. That's what is the expression Ramakrishna gave. Exactly the same thing here when this Rishi, when this Prahlada says that, I offer myself my salutations. That Prahlada who is offering salutations is the Prahlada who is a simple, ordinary, the Hiranyakashipa's son Prahlada, little child. But he's offering prayer to that Chetana who became the whole universe, and who Swayam, he says that's what is the way. Pratyak Chetana Rupaya Aham Mahyameva Namo Namaha Swayameva Ivuditam Swastham Namami Swavasham Swayam. See, it's a beautiful expression of his own being identified with that. But it so happened that there was one Swamiji, big Swamiji came to Bangalore, and then a big street, then he was walking with thousands of his disciples walking with him, and some people were holding the chariot. Some people were holding the the umbrella for him and this and that, and then mantra chanting was going on, everything. And then from the houses that the people come in a ceremonial dress, like in the dress very specially for the Tika puja, and they come with the gold pots of water and all those things, and then they keep a plate and then wash the feet of that saint and then put the water feet on their eye, and then they collect it again, and then prokshana, they do abhisheka in the whole house. So this is what normally that everybody was doing. And I was watching that, and then there's one lady, and along with her, a small little girl also came. And then lady came with a big pot, metal pot and all that, and then golden plate. And then the little girl came also with small little pot and then water in that. And then she came there. And there I notice that only the people who have paid big money as dakshina, they only are entitled to do the pada puja. They only are entitled to give water to that saint. So therefore this lady has shown that receipt, and so immediately that lady was permitted to go and wash the feet of that guru. But then this little girl, she was waiting because she doesn't have any slip in her hand. So she was looking at the whole thing, dismay. And then the mother washed all those things, and whatever that mother did it, she looked at very keenly. And after all those things that the mother came out, and then this little girl, she put that water on her feet, washed her feet, and then put that water on her head, saying that she's really Brahman. She's a real devotee. She deserves that. That's a beautiful thing. That's what happens here, where the ego is completely not there. When the ego is completely dissolved, you are filled. On one side, you are filled with the Chetana. On the other side, you are filled with that beautiful, wonderful respect, humility. Namo Namaha comes from him. That's what is the beauty of this particular state of exaltation. Tishthannapi na nasino, gachannapi na gacchati, shantopi vyavasthasya kurvannapi na lipyate. Now here comes the idea, which is Upanishadic idea very clearly given, is tishtati, that means to say it is yet at one place. But then at the same time, na asino, that means to say not at one place. It is there everywhere. But it is here, but at the same time it is everywhere. Then gachan napina gacchati, it doesn't move anywhere, but it's constantly moving. Like the way that the flame, which is at one place, but then there is a constant movement that is there inside. Shantopi vyavaharasthaha. It's just doing all kinds of vyavahara, activity that is going on, but at the same time, it is deep inside the quietude that is there. Though staying, he is not staying, moving, he does not move. Though quiet, he occupies himself with actions, and then kurvannapina lipyate, does all kinds of activities, but kurvannapina lipyate, nothing touches by him. Exactly the way that like the way Ishavasya Upanishad says that he also, Ishavasya Upanishad, he gives like a extraordinary, wonderful exclamation. He says that, wow, Ishavasya midam sarvam, yat kincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bunjita, mahagridah kasya shuddhanam. It is like an expression that he has given of an experience that he has. Everything is nothing but God. And there, the second sutra, he says that, kurvanneveha karmani jijevishe chatagum samaha evam tvaya nanyate tosti nakarma lipyate nare kurvannapi na lipyate yesha eva sadan veshyaha stutyo jhatayevaha aramanam sammohat anano sirthagamyataha. This self alone is fit to be sought for. All that what you need to, yesha eva sadonyasya. That means to say we need to go for only this kind of an experience, lauded and also meditated upon. By this one crosses over the bewilderment of old age and the death. That's the only thing, that's what is the gamyate, that's supposed to be, we need to achieve. Name bhoga stito vancha, name bhogair vivarjitah, yat ayati tadayat, yat prayati prayat yat. Now here, this is important idea that he says that I'm not going after the bhoga, that means to say riches, material, and all those things. I'm not even giving up that. Nama bhoga vivarjitaha. I'm not giving up that. There's no desire for objects of enjoyment, and nor there's an abandonment of enjoyment. Both these things are not there. Whatever that happens, whatever the way that it comes up, yadayat etadayat, yat prayati prayat yat. Whatever that comes, let it be there. Whatever that departs, whatever goes, let it go. This is what is the state that ultimately is absolutely no question of any attachment to anything. So manasi channe nirahankara yatagate bhavayana galate bhave swastaha tishtami kevalaha. On one side that we have the ego of processing, on the other side ego of giving up. On one side, the ego of I'm realizing, on the other side, the ego of not realizing. I'm doing something is one ego, other is I don't want to do anything is another ego. All those things, when you give up, manasit chinno, the mind is, and that's what our mind is about. The mind is completely destroyed by the mind itself. I'm convinced about this in my mind that this does not have to be there. So therefore, mind itself convincing that mind does not exist. What is mind? Mind is nothing but this is okay, this is not okay, this is right, this is wrong, this is good, this is bad, this has to be there, this should not be there. This is what our mind is all about. Our mind is full of dualities, and then whatever comes, and then when thought has dropped down, vanished completely, and through thought, it's only by this idea that I remain self-abiding and alone. That means mind, intellect, earlier itself that experience of senses, all those things are gone. When all these things dropped, what am I? I'm the consciousness, I'm the self behind. Jaya Sarva Jaya Sarva Gamatit, Jaya Sarva Gama Spada, Jaya Bhava Jaya Bhava, Jaya Shanti Parayanaha. So victory to him who is beyond all scriptures, victory to him who is abode of all scriptures, victory to being and existence, victory of non-being, non-existence, victory to him who is in the tranquility. And that's what is the state he reached. Iti matva samadhavana nirvikalpe charam stiraha. This is the idea of nirvikalpa sthiti. Then from there he comes to Hari. Again, evam tasmintu vishrante harihi evam vyachintayan. When he was in the tranquil, Hari, the god Vishnu, reflected thus. Daityaraje shubham jate shatruhina sura dhruvam shamametya gamishyanti mokshakhyam padamuttamam. When this Prahlada goes to the state of tranquility, and then without any enemies will surely go to the higher abode called moksha, and having attained the quietude. So this is what is the journey that Prahlada makes, and what a beautiful way that it culminates the Prahlada's journey into the state of Ita Sanchintya Daityendra Panchajanya Ravenasa Prabodhya Tamuvachetam Sadho Smaranijakritim. Thus, having thought he, the Lord Vishnu, waking up the Prahlada with the sound of, he was in that Nirvikalpa Samadhi, then go back into the world and do the world with that kind of a thing. And in order to see that he performed that, Vishnu now blows the Panchajanya. He wakes him up into this Chaitanya Sthiti. Panchajanya is the Shankha, and that makes him to come back to the world with the help of this clarity that is there. So this is extraordinary, wonderful state. Prahlada has achieved. Let's stop it at this level. We'll continue next time. Thank you so much. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.